To call this next part of our Human Resource Committee meeting to order. And I'd like to have an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we have no public comments at this point either. So then I will turn it over to you. Brian.
So we've got a tag team effort tonight. Todd, Gina, and myself are all members of the compensation review committee. And so kind of tried to bring you several things to illustrate where we're at this point. What we're seeking really is your feedback from a system level. I mean, does it look like the system that you are in support of? And then also just from a materials perspective, because again, assuming positive feedback coming from your, this committee, our next step is to communicate and share this out with the teaching group to get their feedback. And if you have, if you found something challenging to interpret, or you really like some aspect of it, or you think something needs to be highlighted that's not, please let us know that as well. So that we can, as a committee, we're actually going to be back together on Wednesday to take your feedback and then get it ready to present to a larger group as a whole. And we still have intentions to do that this school year. And so appreciate any feedback you can offer us. The first part that was attached here is the actual handbook language itself. And what again, to help maybe with your viewing of this, if it is new language or something that doesn't currently exist or something that was changed, it's red. And if it is, plain black text, it's old language and something that we're carrying from the old system over into the new.
I forgot my
Oh,
sheet. Can we blow it up?
yeah.
Just
I'll give you a paper copy too, Judy,
okay.
and then you can feel free to draw, scratch, or
Thank you.
scribble on that as much as you like.
Thank you.
I guess my thought about this handbook language is that in and of itself, it's probably not as illustrative as some of the other documents that we've provided to you. But I'm certainly willing to kind of walk through it, and give you a chance if you have a question about something to ask that, or before we kind of go into the next two pieces, which maybe help bring the system to life a little bit.
So this is just the compensation part of the handbook.
This is purely the compensation.
Okay.
And so what you're seeing here is not, that language is not in the handbooks that are up for consideration in front of the board. If we were to put this system into place, we would need to take this language that's in front of you and have it approved as a new handbook language at that time. So this is showing all of you what would need to be changed to support the system we're proposing.
So I haven't seen this before, even though I've read the guidelines before.
Yeah, this would be, much of this would be edited or new.
So basically it'd be CPI plus $400 plus whatever professional development.
And then with opportunity to tap into banked points at intervals within longevity. Yes. And there's some clarifications as well in terms of new teachers into the district, how their work with a mentor can help them earn professional development points. We also did some clarification about points activities, added some new activities, updated some old activities in there as well. And I know I'm scrolling, and not that I think everybody's reading as I scroll, but if I get to an aspect that's someone wants to ask about, we certainly can pause at that moment and talk about it.
So new teachers would get 10 points per hour that first year for working with a mentor, right?
Every what we would, that would be one of the differences of the new system, in that regardless of where someone's what their tenure is or what their length of time is, it's 10 points per hour. And what you're speaking to is when teachers are new into our district, it's important to think of two things. Every teacher that comes into the district, whether they've been teaching for 10 years or no years, gets a building mentor. That person kind of helps them get the lay of the climate, the culture, et cetera. How do we do things here? You know, and that they do activities outside of the school day and sometimes within the school day that would be points eligible to get people caught up to speed, if you would. And then if someone is a brand new teacher to the profession, their first 3 years, they're given a new teacher advisor, which is someone that coaches them and, you know, helps them become a better classroom educator. You know, gives them feedback. You know, here's how your lesson delivery went. You know, try this. That's great. Do that. Keep doing that, etc. And those new to the teacher, new teacher advisor roles would be something that would be given points, because that is professional development. You know, that's coaching and feedback, which is probably one of the most effective types of professional development.
So the teacher mentors and advisors would be given points for what they do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if I could clarify, the people who are receiving the advice and mentoring are getting points. The people who are in the leader position that's a paid position.
That's a paid position, so that's not points.
That's not points.
Perfect.
Thank you for clarifying. I guess I just kind of breezed right over that. Yeah. So it's this
I think
person
that's in here
receiving.
too somewhere, isn't it?
Yes.
Judy or Joan or Brian, other sections of the actual handbook language you want to talk about, or do you want to kind of maybe focus a little bit more on the illustrations of that, how it might work?
Well, I was generally following it. I was just getting sometimes lost in the detail, but the overall concept I thought was there, so I appreciated that.
So is this system difficult for new employees to our district?
I'm gonna actually have Gina and Todd talk a little bit more about that.
The current system?
The point system and stuff, how long does it take? How many years does it take for them to completely understand this? So
Sometimes it takes a long time.
One of the goals of the review process was to make it more user-friendly and clear, or two of the goals. Because no, the existing system is not so clear. So much of the work that we did this year was to bring clarity to the process, and we think that we've had some successes. Of course, there'll be a shift in understanding what was versus what is, which is where this next document comes in, so that we can help current staff to understand, you know, what's the same and what's different.
do you think you're at a start of transition to try to do this slowly to make it more friendly to everyone, to be able to reread it and know what I'm gonna be if I stay here 3 years, 5 years? And I put in the time.
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping that the system is, you know, approved in its entirety, but yes, it will take a transition period for people to understand the new.
But I mean, do you think this is just a first step? So next year there may be more revisions that you're trying to clean up.
I don't really know. I don't think so. I think this is a step that I think we would have to work with for a number of years to see, you know, if it does exactly what we think it does, which, you know, hopefully it will.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily going to be, I don't, unless there's something, you know, that really needs to be addressed. No, I don't think there is anything that needs immediate follow-up after this gets implemented.
I think the feedback we've seen, and Rebecca works with a lot of the points folks, is this cleans up a lot of things for consistency with regards to, you're not trying to figure out how many points do I get for this based on my years of experience, because you've kind of played a more even field where it was differentiated before. So that was one piece. The second piece, which I think was a goal of this committee going forward, was trying to give a degree more of predictability to the system, whereas that's been challenging for the last decade. It's trying to be able to say, if I do all this work, what does it yield? And I think that was a big piece of this, was trying to at least get some additional clarity around that piece.
Does this take the place of what used to be called professional development that teachers had to do along the way, or?
So professional development has always been a part of the point system. Should we just dive in and?
Yeah, I think so. Let's do that.
So, I mean, the section that has the goals at the top, again, just quickly, we're hoping to have a system that is more objective, that equally values, different types of professional development, that is more predictable, and as I mentioned, equitable, in terms of the district perspective, especially a system that is more fiscally sustainable in the long term, and that what Brian alluded to is that it's more easy to understand and user-friendly. And then the system both values professional growth and experience. That's current language. And we are, in fact, separating those two parts of it in the proposed system. So when we look down at the components of what is part of the compensation system, the base wage, which is what we just discussed in the other section of tonight's meeting, supplemental pay is made up by two parts. So we've got the year of experience and professional development in the old system, and in the new system, it separates out a year of experience from the professional development points. So going forward, experience will not earn points. It will earn financial compensation separately. And so going forward more cleanly, the point system is exclusively about professional development. Okay. So that's one of the questions that you have. And then we've just kind of outlined the history of what those two sections have meant in the last couple of years. And then we can kind of just walk through the side-by-side comparison. And this is really where we're trying to help staff understand what the system is, of course, as well as the board. So that first box just talks about the difference in what experience was included in part of this. And now it pulls that out separately to be a more consistent $400 value. And no longer will points be given for experience, though any points that have been earned through experience in the past remain in the bank, whether they were earned through experience or professional development. But any new points are exclusive to professional development. So that next box talks specifically about professional development. I don't know, Ted, do you want to talk about?
Sure. So in the current system, if you are a teacher of 0 to 5 years of experience, you're earning 4 points per hour of professional development. Above 5 years, 8 points per hour. That under the new system would be 10 points for everybody. It's an easier calculation, both from not having to work with 2 different tiers. It's also a nice neat number. In the past, that number of points per hour of professional development has been something that has been changed. When I first started, it was actually 2 and 4, and was negotiated pre-Act 10 at least once, if not twice, to its current level.
And then there's that note at the bottom of that box about early career educators. So when Brian was talking about the advisors and the mentors, That kind of stems from that distinction on how many points were gained through PD for early career educators versus people who've been here longer, as well as there used to be a distinction in experience points earned. And the mentality when the system was created was that you honor just the daily work experience of brand new teachers because they're learning on the job every day. And so when we shifted it to make it more clear and consistent across all levels of experience, we wanted to ensure that new teachers weren't now caught having to earn tons more professional development points than they had in the past. So earning points for work with your district mentor, who is generally a retired teacher, was often not eligible for points in the past. And we ensure that it is because we know that that is on the job professional. Another distinction is that set number of points that needed to be met. There was kind of a threshold, and if you didn't have 500 points in that year, whatever advancement was decided by the school board could not be made. If you had 499, you don't get any increase based on points for that year. There was a process where you could come forward and kind of make a case for why you were 1 point short. But generally speaking, you had to meet that. So it's a big shift to have it be more of a earn as you go style of professional development, so that people at different states of, or points in their life or career can do what they can and be, you know, have that time and sometimes money when you pay for the professional development honored, whether you met that mark each year or not.
Now, I would just add to that the earn as you go helps to eliminate some of those issues of where the point bank is right now in terms of total, because you are acknowledging that and utilizing that every year, as opposed to, well, I didn't meet the 500, so I'm banking 400, and then adding that, and the bank continues to increase. So
that addresses that ongoing liability of the district when you pay out as they're earned.
We'll kind of be able to show you that, illustrate that with that last spreadsheet.
Okay.
I mean, there's a number of things in here that address basically that bank issue that's been continuing to grow over the last several years.
How many are you allowed to bank? All of them. You can just balance up. So when we go on this next point, so when they earn a master's degree or a doctoral degree, they could bank those two and just wait, or do they have to cash that in right away?
So they would use some, they could use some right away for advancement, but they would bank additional points
In the current system.
in the current
In the
system.
current system.
So you would, you'd be granted points for earning it. Some of them you could turn around and use to get what's called a double jump.
Mhm.
But you would have additional points left over that would bank. The new system would, it's a larger initial raise, but there doesn't result in any points being banked from that certificate being earned for that degree.
And I just briefly want to address that. Banked points are not only teachers like going above and beyond, it's the fact that we haven't gotten full increases for years. And so that banking was not voluntary, it was, a requirement.
Yeah, so just to clarify, in years where you've earned 500 points, but the supplemental pay was not $1,500, say it was 900, then that's using 300 of those points. The final 200 got banked, and that's where a lot of those points have actually accumulated over the last several years.
And they can be revisited in the future. So that language is also kind of something we're trying to shift to in this new system, is really thinking of it as like a bank account. You put points in and you spend points for an advancement. So we can get to that a bit more in the end here, but the lack of clarity for some types of professional development, that was addressed in the handbook language that you just saw. There were people offering book studies in the district that didn't know that you could earn points for the reading portion of that task. And so now that's added to the handbook so that people know how that works. We've also added the categories that have been such a big part of our professional learning this year, which are those online options, which were never listed in old language.
So when you say professional development over and beyond, you get points for maintaining your license for those.
So no
Classes.
longer is that necessary. Now
Okay.
people have a life license.
Oh, nice.
And so there have been all kinds of changes over the years. When I was hired 14 years ago, I was not part of a system that had to earn credits to maintain my license. I had a professional development plan process. And now there's a third shift in my time here that is, we all have a life license. And we now do a background check every 5 years, but there's not that requirement to maintain the license. So that will affect the bank as well, because people earn more points for credits. And people used to take credits, yes, as part of earning a degree, but also to maintain licensure, and that is now off the table. The final section is just about that clarity piece, really. Right now, it is like totally insane what you have to do to figure out if you will make the advancement each year. There's like this email that comes out that's like, okay, first step, you go into the online management system, you export a spreadsheet, and then you total this column, and every year people miss, partly because they just don't even know how many points they have. There's all of these different systems working at the same time. So you apply for in-district things on something called Eduphoria. You submit pre-approval for things that are not on Eduphoria through a different form online. You get emails that say they've been submitted. You get emails that say they've been approved. You also get emails from Eduphoria that don't mean anything, that say you've earned credit when you really haven't, because you get those emails even if you don't actually attend the event. And so there's just a lot of barriers to people understanding where they're at and where they're hoping to be. And so this is not part that we can speak specifically to. It's part that we have as a next step that will look for ways to make the actual application for points, the recording of points, the calculation, addition and subtraction of points more clear.
And easier for everybody.
Yes,
Yeah.
including Rebecca.
Yes.
Shout out to Rebecca, who is deeply involved in that.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of, I would say the best vision of the committee would be that it almost will look like a checking. So, but that's kind of the idea, and that, I would say that would be, how did I get back from here?
Can I ask something? I kind of got lost in the handbook language on page, it's 3rd out of 9 or page 58. In the new teacher to the district stuff,
Yep.
And then what is said here in the chart, where it says you get 200, you could earn up to 200 points in your first year and 100 in your second and third. Is that in there?
Yeah, not written that way, but kind of what it's referring to is, it's so all teachers can submit for 100 points by when they come. So this is everybody.
Okay.
Every new person to the district gets a building mentor. That's 100 points. And if you're an experienced teacher, more than, which the DPI defines as more than 3 years,
Okay,
that's the only
that's all you get.
person you're gonna get. But if you're brand new to our district and you're in your first 3 years of teaching, you're gonna get this
Oh,
person.
you'll get both.
And so, yeah, so you have somebody that's teaching, and hey, here's how the culture works in Waunakee, and, you know, here's what parent-teacher conferences kind of feel like, and this is what you can expect to hear from your colleagues, and this is how a PLC meeting will work, et cetera. And then you get this person that's coming into your room and saying, hey, let's sit down, brand new teacher, and let's break down how your lesson just went. And I'll coach you and I'll make you a better teacher by giving you feedback, and then we'll try new things and we'll talk about how that goes. And so 100 for that, 100 for that.
And so that's all red, but really the building mentor part has been in place. And the
Yes.
part that is newly earning points is the work with the retired teacher. And whether that takes place during the day or after school, that is seen as job embedded professional development, and you would earn points for that, which currently you cannot.
I understand it now. I think it's a little difficult for a new teacher, for a new teacher to go there and say, well, I don't know.
Yeah, to see that.
To see that there's
frankly, I
two
think they're
categories,
awash in
yeah.
just right newness. And so
In
I think-
addition, could we use like, in addition to the 100 points, a new teacher has another option?
So clarifying the handbook language itself.
Sure.
Clarifying the handbook language that there's, in addition to the 100 points that all teachers have the opportunity to earn, a new teacher has another opportunity.
Sure.
Maybe in
Yeah.
line 30, you would add that. in the second.
Yes, right before it, in addition to.
We might also be able to add on line 26 there, all teachers joining the district regardless of years of experience, just to, again,
Yeah,
offset the two, because there is a lot of similar, you see mentor,
yeah.
it all
yeah.
starts to kind of,
I did not
Wash
catch
it.
it when I read this, and all of a sudden I was reading this, and I'm going, well, where did that say that?
And
Sure.
to be honest, I had it backwards in my head on who was a mentor and who was an advisor. So
Which is actually, I think there's that term, that's one of the things that Amy Johnson, the CI, who has asked us to really be tight with, is consistent language that we're gonna, across the district, in every building, call these folks, role specific. You're an advisor or you're a mentor, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because it blends and
Yeah.
it gets confusing for people.
I think one of the things that we can improve upon, bring new people in and on board. So they get a hour, 45 minutes of Tim, Shell, and I walking through this during their orientation. The moment they walk out, their eyes are glassed over and it's
Yeah.
completely over their head. And what I tell them is, you just need to know this, that this is important, so you can come back to it. And part of what we need to then look at is how can we also help their mentors be part of helping them understand it and understand the system, so that they can be kind of a first line of communication about it. Because it is, to your point, Brian, it's complicated, and new folks coming in are, this is one of those things I tell them it's a need to know, but it's not one you're going to absorb the first time to see it. You're going to have to kind of live it. So working with our mentors is going to be important. And then letting them know where to ask questions
when those come out.
And then can I clarify, or when exactly would this go into place for
Sure.
the points per hour earning? When exactly, what's the date that it's going to be 10 points per hour?
So if the, for example, I guess we'll say it this way. As a committee, we hope that it would be put into place this year, this summer.
Yeah.
Which would mean then that everyone would be working under the rules on that handbook, starting when they come back to school. And then this year, they would be earning things under the new rules to affect their contracts for 22, 23.
So if they earn something in August, if they're taking a class in August, would it be new rules or old rules?
It'd be new rules.
New,
Yeah.
so July 1st.
So at the
Or-
top of this document, it does say July 1st. I do want to make sure that that lines up with the normal switch during the summer of when you
Right.
have to earn points. by.
Yeah,
Yeah, we would have to,
oh, July 1st, I get it.
yeah, we would have to obviously communicate to folks. Because again, the deadline currently is June 14.
Yeah.
Anything that happens after June 14 goes on to the next year.
Probably.
So if we district puts this into place, any point activity after June 14
Should be
would
the
go
next.
to would be June 15. Anything June 15 or later would go to the higher point values.
Should be.
But we would, but obviously that would be key communication to get to everybody.
Even those that are already submitted under the old
Yeah.
point system for an extended period of time.
Yeah, you'd have to clarify, if it ends by June 14th, well, if it ends at June 14th, it's going on,
This year,
it goes after the.
right, but some people are taking
Right,
coursework or
Right.
they're taking workshops that have extended periods of time.
Right,
Yeah,
that
and
might
then-
even span that actual 14,
Sure.
15.
Yeah, well, and they may start in June and they may end up in August. if
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah.
if it's
To
an
me,
ongoing workshop.
if they bridge over the 14th, we put them on the new schedule.
yeah, because
That
when
makes
they,
the
when they
most-
finish is
otherwise, I
what they
think
get.
We'll go crazy.
Yeah.
So I think.
I'm just saying, we'll have to pay a particular attention to those because they're already in like
Right.
our system right
Yeah.
now with the old value.
Yep.
But they'll be earning those points after that July 1st.
Yeah.
Right.
date.
So kind of the next part is really just some illustration for everyone. And so the one thing I obviously want to get out there is I have no idea what CPI is going to be in 22, 23, 20. So what we used or what I used in these illustrations, where I used historic CPI amounts. So again, and so people have a chance to visualize it. And so I just took the last, well, not, I guess, I didn't use this year's, but I used the prior 3 years CPI amounts for people to see how this would work and to get a sense of it. So what we have, this first example educator is a brand new teacher, first year teacher. So they start at whatever the base salary would be. And this would be obviously occurring at the end of the contract year. They would, again, negotiated CPI amount adds on here. They get 400 points, $400 for 1 year of experience. They have earned 250 professional development points in the course of the year, and they use them all, or they use them. They're not eligible for a longevity redemption or raise. They did not earn an advanced degree or certificate. And so their total increase is, like Brian had brought up at the beginning, CPI, $400, 750. And then the next contract they have will be that amount on the bottom. For illustration purposes, in the 23-24 school year, this particular new teacher got a CPI amount of that, negotiated year of experience dollar there, but they didn't they didn't earn any more points, so they had just 200 points. And so as a result, their bank only permitted a $600 professional development raise. No longevity, no advanced degrees, total amount raised there, new contract amount there. And then same process over here. And then if we scroll down a little bit, this is an example kind of what their points bank could look like. So the day they start, they don't have any points. They do several different types of activities over the course of a year. They do a book study, they do a webinar, they do a workshop, they work with their new teacher advisor, they work with their new teacher mentor. And so they have when it comes time to make the new contract, they have 250 points in their bank, which I showed you before. They redeem 250 points. Now their points bank is down to 0 because they used them all. But as a result, they got the raise that we're talking about right here. And so then the next year, now they are accumulating new points. You know, they did a workshop, they did a book study, they worked with their mentor. And as a result, they have 200 points in their bank. They use all 200, they get $600 points development raise. Year 3, they take a class, they do a webinar, they do a book study. Their points add up to here. They work with again, new teacher mentor. Their points go to there. It comes time at the end of that to get the next year's contract. They use 250 points. Now they have some carryover points, some bank points of 360.
What happens at retirement when there's bank points? Is just one lump sum?
It's paid out over 4 years, 8 payments into a staff person's HRA.
At $3.
That was one of the reasons purposely we kept the value of points at $3. Because, you know, the points that were earned before were $3 and that's what, you know, so it became confusing to us. How would we figure that out? Like, is this a $3 point or is this a $2 point? Is this, you know, so we just kept, let's be consistent and keep $3 per point.
Brian, can you go up for a second, just to show kind of one thing? Right there, that's fine. So one of the things, Brian, that would have happened is if you'd have been under the old system, you still had that payout at retirement, but there was nowhere else to really access dollars for those bank points unless you used them for like your subsequent year increases. So that's where the longevity degree time comes in. So every 5 years, you would have an opportunity to use some if you have, instead of having to wait all the way to the end at retirement. So I think that was a piece trying to build some incentivization to keep doing some of the points so that every 5 years you could utilize them and actualize it.
And we'll see that in our second person here. Because our second person is year three at the start of the system. So they're going to hit one of those 5-year longevity increments within the process of this. And so I think we're pretty familiar with what would happen this particular year, because as you look at it, what happens for this teacher is very similar to what happens to our other teacher, right? They get the CPI negotiated amount, they get the $400 per year of experience, they have a max PD raise. But they're making more money because they're a little further along the scale. Again, this particular person has points available to earn the max professional development raise again. Total rate increase, wages there. And now we get to a 5th year or a 5-year interval. This is how this could work, and I'll show it in their bank in a second. This is the typical $750 that everyone would have annually or could earn annually. But because they have a points bank that allows them to use more, they can use up and get another $750 on top of it. And then obviously their salary would increase in the corresponding amount. And so smaller, again, you know, shows you a little bit about how this could happen at the start of the system. an experienced teacher, basically, I think the vast majority of our teachers, of our experienced teachers would carry points into this system. They're gonna have a bank. So this person is an experienced person carrying in some points. But kind of speaking to what Gina and Todd and I referenced, it would not look so clean as saying you have 310 points. There would be some, they would have, they'd likely have somewhere in, you've got the difference between 2,852 points earned and 600 points redeemed. And you gotta kind of cut, where am I standing? This would hopefully kind of clarify and simplify that process. Here's where you stand. You got this many points to use in your bank. Here's how they would add to it. Here's the subtraction from there. Because they redeemed it, their points bank goes down to there. They start building up again. They redeem 250, so their points bank is down there. They take a 3-credit class, excuse me. Points bank goes up, webinar, points bank goes up. And then this is the year 5 of their career. So they use 250 points for their regular PD raise, and they use another 250 points for their longevity raise. And so their bank has gone down to that.
How will experienced teachers be treated for those longevity? So Todd's missed year 5, year 10, year 15. When can he apply, and how do we avoid having all those people apply at the same time?
And so it's based upon hire. It's 5-year intervals upon hire. And so, whenever the system would start, you'd be looking at your people that are in their 5th, 10th, 15th, 20,
Okay,
So it would, in that way, it would kind of spread out the staff into, it's not gonna be perfect increments, but it does spread them out based on your year of hire. And I can, in the financial example, I can show you a little bit about what that would be in a couple different years.
So
so,
everyone would have an opportunity within the next 5 years.
okay, based on, and it would have to be that multiple of 5 from their original hire date. Okay.
And then an experienced educator, what we showed here is, or illustrated here, is what would happen for if they have 2 unique things happen. So they have both a 5-year tenure or longevity raise comes into place. But they also earn their master's degree. And so this is a little bit of what Randy had talked about, or I think I had talked about, excuse me. In that year that the master's degree is conferred, they are eligible, they're given 800 points for it, because they've earned that degree. They're given 800 points, they can turn around and redeem it immediately for a $2,400 raise. And as a result of this activity, no points are banked. There's an initial higher outlay of salary, but no future liability from that degree being issued. And so then, excuse me, this just gives you a little bit of an example. More, what we have here is a person earning a master's degree. Is they're going to be taking credits. So you're seeing in their points bank activity more credit type activities as opposed to workshops, book studies, things of that nature. And as you see, their bank is going up as a result of that. It is going down as a result of the raises and reductions. And Now we go to the last kind of item, which would be the costing comparison. You can, actually,
3,000 on top, see if you can go to full screen.
Something like that.
No, load up, see,
is that better? for
better. I got
Just
it.
tell her, just talk us through it.
So what I've got on the right is our current system. And so we used 2 years. I used 1920 and 2021. The first box on top here just gives you the reference of what happened. CPI amount, how that was distributed, how many points we paid, and how many teaching FTE there was. And then if you look at actual costs, this tells us how that played out for us. 1920 CPI distributed to our teachers was 473,000. Double jumps are people that earned advanced degrees or certificates. 900 points means we paid out supplemental raises of that. But as Todd was talking about, or Todd or Gina, people had to earn 500 to get that points raised, but we didn't pay them 1,500. So that meant that they banked points equal to 176,700. So if you talk about the actual cost of what happened that year, we're at 900 and just to here under $925,000. 2021, we have more staff. CPI cost us that because the CPI was lower. Double jumps, we actually only had one person do a double jump that year. Points cost us that much, but bank points cost us 194. So total cost was 859,000 and change.
So in 1920, even though they earned 500, they got 900 for it. Do they only spend $900 worth of points? Or do you have to
Yes,
spend the whole
yep,
500?
correct.
You
Yep.
have to have the 500 available, but you only
Got to cash.
utilize the 300.
So you did,
The 900.
yeah.
And so
200 goes to the bank.
what happens then is that's shown here. So this is our actual, right now, this is our district liability for our points bank. When our contracts were finalized for 2021, right now we have, teachers have $1.3 million worth of points in their personal banks. And so that, as you notice, has steadily climbed in these 4 years. And will potentially, I'll be deducting that from my particular salary for today.
Got your points up.
Yeah. So that would obviously continue to if we were not paying out max points, $1,500 in points, that will continue to increase every year. So if we had our proposed system, what will happen? CPI cost remains the same. I kept, again, I just used that historic number that would play out. Now, if we talk about a year of experience, that was based on our FTE times $400 a piece. Gives us those numbers. Now, if we talk about how PD points could be used, taking a look at this particular number is all the staff that had the full 250 points available to them to cash in. We had some staff that had less than 5. So again, what this asterisk here is less than 500. These folks would not have been able to use any of those points. They would have banked them, but in this current system, they can't, or proposed system, they could. So they got a raise amount that because they did have 250 available to them. So they got to use that. Double asterisk, less than the annual max, These folks obviously would not have been able to use these points either, but they did not have available to them 250. So I assume they're going to use as many as they can. So that's how many they could. And then advanced degrees or certificates. This would be again a number that it results in. I wish I don't have it. Let's just say I think we had we had a number of people earn master's degrees. We had a couple national board certifications. One was a new and one was a renewal. So that's where this number came from. And then longevity redemption zone. That year, 41 teachers were on one of their 5-year intervals. So as long as they had the points, and they did, all of our experienced people did, they were using that amount. 2021, it's 38 teachers. That's how much it cost them. And so in summary, what would happen is in the new system, the salary expense would be 866,000 in change. What it really cost us was these two, three numbers right there is 747,000. However, we got a deferred expense of a points bank. If you take the current system expense and the deferred expense of the points bank, the proposed system in 1920 would have actually saved us as a district $57,000. And if you look at it compared to 2021, the new system would have in theory saved us $70,000 in total expense. Again, I'll beat you to the punch. The one thing that we can't know is someone's points, they don't make it to retirement, they don't have a value. You get to retirement, they are paid out. If you resign before that point and you have a bank, they are not paid out. That is obviously that would decrease the cost of your points bank, but again, it is at the expense of the employees who were within the system and had earned those points while they were working, and they were not paid for those points that we told them that they had to earn to get things.
At what date do they need to declare that they're going to use points?
I mean, like,
Do they do it at the end of the year or for the beginning for the next year?
We don't ask them if they're,
Just take it.
we take them, if you would,
Okay.
assuming that everybody wants the maximum amount. We don't give that an option. We don't allow people to say, no, I don't want to collect my maximum raise at this time, keep my points for retirement. We just say, you have the points, this is how many you could use, we're taking.
But that June 14th, 15th is the cutoff for earning those points for the year that comes. So you earn points this year for your advancement the following year.
And then the last illustration I provided is what would our points bank look like if we had this in operation. And so there's a couple things that are working into this. One, if we're not granting additional experience points, obviously that would, we would take that off the top. So those points would go away because they were paid cash for those instead of given points. And then if we also talk about how the redemption points that are used, people that did not have the full 500 were able to use points. People that did not have the full 500 and did not have the 250 got to use points. Advanced degrees were not given points and not paid for them. And more people use the longevity. And so, again, number of points that went away. So what that results in is less points given, more points used. Our points bank would shrink. to a smaller, again, if the proposed system was in place, our points bank would be smaller, which is shown here. In the 2021 column, I did not give the difference in any dollar value because I think there's another important realization, which is this is not a vacuum, and people are likely to still be earning points for professional development as the year goes on. So to say that we'll pick up for one year left off and then we'll use up more and nobody will add it, that's really a false projection. But what we do know is if nothing else had changed, again, we would have the effect of shrinking our points bank based on the way the system operates.
Brian, when you calculated the deferred expense, you're using the 200 points that they had to earn but didn't use
Correct.
per
Yes.
person.
Yeah.
Just have the approval from the association.
The membership at large has not seen this. This does have the stamp of approval of the committee, which is made up of members of the teaching staff. And there are people from each building that serve on that committee. We're just looking for some feedback from you before we bring it to the staff at large. That's the next step.
Gina, how many teachers are on that committee or how many staff members?
It is Todd and myself. It is Kyle Emmert, Lynn Senrose, Stephanie Boyd, Karen Schrader, Jamie Serkman. That is it. So,
And then the other stuff is what money, much of the material you saw tonight, we actually, between our last meeting and tonight, we took it out and had friendly observers read it and give us feedback and then edited and adjusted it. Because again, your eyes are relatively new to this, but we sought out some folks that were very new to it so that they could help us understand what are the gaps we're not seeing as people that have been living in this discussion for almost 2 school years now.
15 meetings. And there were not really substantive changes, but there were, things edited for clarity in terms of communication.
So we're looking at waiting again or recommending this to the board.
What I would say is if you as a committee feel like what we've shown you is something you have support for, we would take our model out to the teaching association and get their feedback and their questions and do our, again, review that, edit as necessary, and probably bring it back for a final time to this committee for a review and a motion to the school board, to the board as a whole for an action.
Yeah, I support that.
Yeah.
Let's get more feedback.
Yeah, I really like this document. This to me really helps clarify what the language says. The illustrations are good to see, but this document is huge. Yeah, I would love to see this move along and get in the handbook so it can be implemented next year. We've been at this a long time, talking, doing. So whatever we need to do to move it along for next year would be fabulous.
What's your target board meeting, Brian, when you kind of look at that process? Are you looking at wanting to get that in like the July meeting?
I think, yeah, it would be a July. I mean, that's, we've got our feedback loop is, obviously we only have a few weeks for teachers to give our feedback loop. Then to get this meeting, our group back, HR committee back together. I don't think is realistic before June 14 regular meeting. Meet sometime after that and then
There.
So then it would just take effect retroactively.
We would-
Again,
we
the
would
start
have
date
to-
being July.
Yes.
That's something we'll talk about probably offline, is how to kind of track that from our office.
Randy, can I jump in for a minute?
When do you want the next meeting?
Unless you think we could do it before June. I mean,
Um,
is that at all a possibility? Because we have a pretty good understanding, the three of us, so the meeting with HR won't have to be lengthy. Because, you know, I can't imagine there would be a lot of changes coming out of the teaching staff. If you think it's too fast, Todd?
No, I'm shaking my head as if no, there should not be a whole lot
No.
of changes. I mean, I think we're mostly hoping for and looking at minor language changes just to clarify certain things or
Correct.
certain wordings that
Correct.
might be better to help people understand, but I don't think substantially we're looking at any
It,
major changes. to
it just, I think it would
proposal.
be really good for the board to see it in June, because we want to implement it in July. I just think waiting until July might be a problem.
If there, I mean, when I look at kind of your kind of drop dead time to get things in the packet for the July meeting, the latest you could do it is if you held a meeting like the morning of the 10th, which is Thursday.
okay, the June meeting.
So
That's
June
what I
10th
was.
is that Thursday, I would release board book that day.
And I could, yeah,
What you could, or you could pick another date, depends when you could pull this together with the staff's input. But as far as kind of the latest date, I would say would be, ideally, it'd be like the evening of the, well, an evening of the 9th, we've got some other things administratively, but the 10th, the morning of the 10th would be a time that would, if we could do a morning meeting.
I could.
What day was this?
June 10th.
June 10th.
Thursday the 10th.
I'm available.
Yep, so we could do like an 8 o'clock meeting. Does that work for you, Brian?
Yep,
Yep.
8 o'clock on.
And then what
On the
we'll do is just after that meeting, we'll finish. We'll get board book complete and release it that day to the board.
I just think it's
Get it on going faster.
getting it into the rest of the board by June.
Yep.
I think it would go a long way in terms of clarity to just have things, you know, in
Yes.
place by that timeline shift. So thank you for considering that.
Yep.
Now we just have to figure out how to meet with the teaching staff by that time.
Well, that'll be for a
Wednesday's
fruitful discussion on Wednesday.
All right. And we covered everything. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks. Jim.
Something's gonna get done.